Hello, can everybody hear me? Hi. No? I assume I can be heard, yes? Yeah, okay. Well, hello everybody, my name's Phil Murray, and I'm here to, as Constantine says, to represent the patient advisory involvement with ME research, and in particular we were set up when the MEGA project was conceived last year, and there were 15 of us originally, joined in December, and it's really great to be asked to give this presentation, to give the patient's voice. Obviously, it's been really exciting to see all the scientific reports the last 2 days. We're not actually scientists, or some of us used to work in science, but we are from the patient's point of view, and we all support this collaborative venture, by the way. We think it's excellent. So what brought our PAG together was the chance to be involved in a project that could yield invaluable scientific data about this multi-system illness. But before I go into details about this and tell you more about our group and how we work, we've got a personal account from one of our members who has got ME and is unable to be with us today due to her health. So she's recorded this video. And if I get it working, there's not a link there, Claire.
Go down.
Oh, there we go.
Press it one more time and it should play.
No. Do I press just?
It's not playing, Claire.
Oh no.
It's alright, we've got it on the desktop. We're all... Yeah, I'll let you do it.
Ah, if I can click it, that'll work.
It worked yesterday.
Play button there. She's moving it.
Hi, thank you for inviting us to speak to you today. My name is Rachel and I am one of the MECFS patient members of this patient advisory group. I'm currently moderately affected by my MECFS. I have been ill for over 10 years. To give you an idea of the impact of this illness, I have lost my career through...
Sorry, that's my fault.
So she can't blame technology now.
No, that's totally
We all saw it, Claire.
Sorry, I'm not trying to Skype anybody. Yeah, no. I know what I'm supposed to do, I'm just not doing it very well. Yeah. I think. We just can check this again. I'm so sorry.
This is team working at its best.
Collaboration.
Sorry.
Hi, thank you for inviting us to speak to you today. My name is Rachel and I am one of the MECFS patient members of this patient advisory group. I'm currently moderately affected by my MECFS. I have been ill for over 10 years. To give you an idea of the impact of this illness, I have lost my career through MECFS and am now retired on health grounds. It is a difficult situation to accept. At my age, and having worked so hard to build my teaching career, it has been tough to admit to myself that I will not be standing in front of a science classroom again. That part of my identity is gone. I'm now a wheelchair user, and am often housebound without the help of others. I can feel very ill after simple activities like taking a bath. I am often unable to prepare my own food, suffer with cognitive difficulties or brain fog, have difficulty sitting or standing upright for long, and have poor mobility. I often experience considerable discomfort and sometimes pain. At times my sleep is disrupted, at other times I have an overwhelming need to sleep. I rely on others to help me care for my children, clean my home, and enable me to get out and access the world outside of these four walls, a world that I really miss being part of. The most difficult feature of MECFS to cope with, however, is the cardinal defining symptom of post-exertional malaise known as PEM. This feature of the illness means that when I do any activity, cognitive, physical or emotional, that takes me beyond what I can usually manage, I suffer payback in the form of all symptoms being dramatically exacerbated. This may be delayed by up to 72 hours and may last for days, weeks or beyond. Pacing helps me maximise what I can do within the boundaries set by MECFS and minimises the risk of payback, but it still remains an all too frequent experience. This is the feature of the illness that I find most disabling. But I am one of the lucky ones. I have a supportive GP and supportive friends and family. With help, I can lead a good, if restricted, life. I have, however, seen firsthand what this illness can do in its severe form. ME/CFS has impacted my family for around 30 years. I have seen how severe ME can leave a person bedbound, unable to reach the bathroom, unable to attend to their own personal care, unable to bear touch on their skin, unable to be hugged, unable to tolerate even the sound of another person's speech, unable to tolerate light even with the darkest sunglasses. I have seen how it can rob a person of the ability to speak, of the ability to chew or swallow solid food, how it can cause seizures and vomiting and ongoing pain. I have seen how it can rob someone of their life for years on end with no hope of a cure. Over the years, I've seen medics bemused and powerless when confronted with the symptoms of this illness. I have seen them distance themselves and become dismissive, unable to handle their own impotence in the face of the severity of illness that ME/CFS can cause. Progress is being made, thanks in no small part to the efforts of researchers like yourselves. There is a greater understanding and acceptance of patients' experiences as the biology underpinning this disease is slowly unpicked. Despite this, there are no new treatment options and no cure. Many find that, whilst the support of specialist services can be valuable, they remain significantly ill and disabled by this illness. It frustrates me to be in this position, but worse still, I'm now watching this illness steal my teenage daughter's health too. She has been ill now for 3.5 years. She is following the guidance of the specialist but remains too unwell to attend school. She is watching her teenage life, missed experiences, friendships and education pass her by. In her own words, "You're alive, but it's not living. It is just existing most of the time. It is like you are watching life through a one-way mirror. You can watch everyone else and see what they are doing, but you can't participate and they can't see you." It breaks my heart that ME/CFS does not just destroy the lives of patients like my daughter, it renders them invisible too. Like many others on the patient advisory group, I am highly motivated to engage with researchers to support robust biomedical research into this vile illness. I want to see progress for the sake of my own family and for the millions of others suffering the impact of this illness. I have told you my story, but this patient advisory group is made up of others whose lives have been impacted just as harshly. We did not know each other before being brought together to form this group, but we are all united in our wish to see a solution to this illness. We represent a cross-section of the ME/CFS community. We are patients, ranging from recovered through mild to severely affected. We are parents and carers of family members with ME/CFS. Some of us have several family members affected. But we are not just ME patients and carers. We bring with us experience of ME/CFS, but also qualifications and experience in the fields of law, investment management, science education, college lecturing, management of a university department, journalism, medicine, general practice, biochemistry, immunology and the pharmaceutical industry. Several patient advisory group members are or have been involved in ME/CFS charity work, patient support and advocacy. In the main, our careers have been curtailed by ill health and caring responsibilities, but we are far from giving in to this illness. In short, as a patient advisory group, we have a wealth of experience to offer you, and the greatest of incentives to do what we can to support biomedical research. We cannot overemphasise the importance of your research into the biology of this horrible disease. Thank you for being involved, and thank you for letting us help you.
Right, huge thanks from Rachel there from home. And I actually heard from her last night. She sent me a short message wishing me well for today and sending her best wishes to all of you at this conference. So that's from Rachel last night. So, the patient advisory group, I'm just going to call it the PAG. PAG, and I'll just refer to the illness as ME, not CFS or CFS-ME or anything. So, how do we work and what is it we do? And I've got a few logos up there which show some of the areas. We work in a variety of ways. We use an online platform called Slack, which allows us to interact with each other very quickly to discuss topics, create and share editable documents, and post links to new ME research, which obviously we have a great interest in. We also meet by teleconferencing, and we communicate by email. And obviously we've been involved with Esther at the University of Bristol, and Action for ME have given us unstinting support since we all formed as well, so hence I'll put their logos up there too. Because of our passionate interest, we've undertaken to educate ourselves about diagnostic criteria, definitions, research past and present, and a variety of symptoms, as well as keeping up to date with the views and concerns of people with the illness. Each of us, as Rachel said, has the resource, and it is a resource, of actually living with ME or caring for someone who does, or both. In total, across the whole PAG, the number of years that ME has affected our 12 people comes to more than 185 years. Okay? So the impact has been massive. We have had to confront some challenges in order to work together. Firstly, we've had to build up trust and understanding within the group, and we're spread all over the country, and in fact there's even a member in America. But this has come about through effective communications and a shared belief that each point of view counts. And it's important to state we don't always reach consensus, and I think this is a good thing, because if we all agreed on everything all the time, some people would not be, they'd be agreeing for the sake of it, so we don't always reach consensus. We've reached consensus on this, which is good. And obviously as ME we have a wide range of different experiences with ME. Some people have got family members affected, I myself got better, other people are just carers, so obviously we have different opinions which we're all bringing to the PAG. Indeed, the very name is undecided. Is it ME, CFS, ME stroke CFS, CFS stroke ME, and systemic exertion intolerance disease? I mean, personally I'd say PVFS, but that's just me. These terms have their own histories and politics. So while there is conflict in the world of ME, we found the differences of opinion within the group has been a healthy aspect of working together, and we have definitely learned a great deal from one another. So, continuing in the way that we work, some people do find that phone conversations are easier than writing emails or interacting online. Some find teleconferences, which we do use a lot, a big drain on their concentration, and some people unfortunately have been ill for days after, so they're making their own sacrifices to be contributing members of the PAG. We've tried to be creative in overcoming barriers and supporting one another. Contributions to a teleconference can be emailed in advance if people are not able to attend for one reason or another, and announcements can be made on Slack and email. We do encourage one another to prioritise health over the work of the PAG, because some people have suffered as a result of our work and it's not good, so we do say put your health first if you can. A bad spell or relapse may mean that someone is unable to participate for a while, much as they might like to. Having said that, our keen desire to help bring about good research has meant that, for example, some members have taken part in teleconferences while hardly being able to get out of bed. We've collectively contributed to the writing of funding bids, considered research eligibility criteria, trialled patient questionnaires for suitability and relevance, considered acceptable levels of patient burden for sample and data collection, which is very important with a mega project, answered questions posed to us, and stressed the importance of enabling the full range of patients to participate. And I'm talking about the spectrum from mild to severely affected. We have learned a lot about the considerable demands and challenges researchers face to secure access to the limiting funding available. How is patient involvement vital to ME research? Well, obviously we're biased, we think it's very vital. Patient input is vital because it helps ensure the research is taking into account the reality or realities of ME. For example, questionnaires used to measure disability and symptoms can be very problematic. Most of us feel that the DePaul symptom questionnaire does a fairly good job of capturing ME symptoms, unlike many others commonly in use. And we have just talked about this a lot. But it doesn't work well for one of our members. So, we don't always get consensus. And it does take a rather long time to complete, depending on how well you're feeling, so it can impact you. A PAG can communicate the specifics of why something might work well for one patient taking part in research and be unworkable for another. Another area we've given a lot of thought to is the question of how to distinguish between those suffering from ME and those with ME and comorbid depression and anxiety, and patients who have anxiety and or depression but not ME. There's a scale called the Hospital Anxiety and Depression Scale, or HADS, which is often used in research. We feel this is very problematic for people with ME, because you can score high, but for reasons other than mental health problems. For example, you may say that you don't enjoy things that you used to enjoy, but that's because you're physically unable to do them, not because you're depressed and lacking motivation. And in my experience personally, most of the people I've met with ME have very high levels of motivation. A more difficult general difficulty is posed by the word usually in a questionnaire. Usually, I mean, with somebody's ME's usual may be managing to get dressed before needing 2 hours of bed rest. How can they answer questions about usually if usually means when healthy? If you've been ill for years, possibly decades, you may not be able to remember what it was like to be healthy. I know I didn't. With effective pacing, people with ME can learn to minimise their experience of extreme fatigue, but still have very restricted function. Therefore, we find questionnaires measuring function to be more relevant than those measuring simply fatigue. As a group, we've been able to make what we consider are vital recommendations to the research team. For example, that the severely ill and the long-term ill be included, so that results from studies with only moderately or mildly ill patients are not extrapolated and applied to the severely ill. And often people who have been ill for a very long time don't get included because they're kind of almost forgotten. Their GPs may have forgotten about them. And they may not go back to their GPs, because why would they? Because there's no cure. However, another vitally important consideration for us, and it is what I'd say is essential, is that post-exertional malaise be the defining factor for inclusion in the study. And we actually go further than that. We don't believe that PEM on its own is clearly enough defined. As Rachel said on the video, when people with ME overdo it, they don't just get tired or extra tired. It's not just being tired. All the symptoms worsen. And some of the scientists here have just talked about fatigue. And it's fine just to use that one word if you're in the context of a scientific study and complicated results. But ME isn't just about fatigue and being tired. Pain, cognitive impairments, sleep disturbances, headaches, migraines, digestive issues, orthostatic intolerance, and so on and so on and so on. It's much more than just malaise. And I remember, although I got better 10 years ago, I do remember that in relapses I didn't feel tired, I just felt desperately, completely ill. And it's not just physical exertion either, it can be stimulation of the mental. I remember going to the cinema for 2 hours to see a Star Wars movie, and I was driven there and I walked in and I sat there for 2 hours, walked out, and I was in bed for 10 days because the stimulation was too much for me. That triggered a massive relapse. It wasn't just exercise, it was actually the overstimulation of the cinema. Right. Why does biomedical research matter so much to people with ME? So that's a real sufferer, not a stock picture, and that's her quote. It has nothing to do with how you feel or what you think. So the difference that biomedical research can make to the hundreds and thousands of people with ME who will be left feeling disbelieved and invisible. I mean, even a few months ago, one of my friends said to me, "Oh, I think it's psychological." And yeah, really, yeah, she's a friend of mine. The still prevalent idea that ME is possibly, it's possibly a psychological condition, people think, or a psychosocial construct, often by the press or colleagues sometimes, or even well-meaning friends and family. It can be terribly damaging to anyone whose body will not work because of ME, and I should know. I personally, when I recovered from my bout of ME, one friend said, "Oh, I knew you'd get better, you've got such a positive attitude." And to which I said, "Well, if it had been about my positive attitude, it would have taken me 6 weeks, not 6 years." Right? Anyway, moving on, I speak for all the PAG when I say that patients and their relatives and carers do not wish to see reports in the press like this anymore. Okay? Absolutely not. They're still coming out several times a year. We don't want to see this. Or that. Now, I happen to know that's an appalling piece of reporting and it doesn't reflect the trial behind it. So I'm not criticising a trial, I'm just saying that's appalling reporting. Oh dear, I've named it, that's a shame. And we don't like seeing stock images like that. Okay? Enough. There is a paradox. Oh, sorry, I missed a bit. It is very disheartening that while science has made such strides in areas such as cancer and AIDS, etc., there is still no firm treatment and no cure for ME at present. There's a paradox at the heart of ME research in the UK: how to have an unbiased, hypothesis-free investigation when patients are diagnosed and treated according to an outdated policy that is failing to help many. Current NHS policy on ME was written before mainstream multidisciplinary science had a chance to discover firm clues as to the biomedical basis for the illness. This is why biomedical discoveries, and I've seen some amazing stuff in the last day and a half, they really do shine a ray of light for sufferers. In the words of one of our members, it can make your day to read research that shows it's real. It really gives you hope, and that difference is being made to people with ME all over the world, and people have come from all over the world to be here, so we're talking about you, so thank you. Our patient advisory group wants to work in a positive, solution-orientated way in partnership with research scientists. We're relieved and grateful when eminent scientists and clinicians treat the patient group as friends and partners, working together with the aim of finding solid knowledge. We want to give thanks to the researchers like Professor Jose Montoya, who earlier last month published his new discoveries of 17 cytokines whose levels correlate with the severity of ME symptoms. This research gave ME patients everywhere a huge boost, because this is another example of reliable biomedical illness evidence that is widely respected. Because ME is a serious, chronic, complex, multi-system disease, we need scientists from different fields to work together. It's essential for there to be national and international collaboration, such as we've seen at the recent Stanford Symposium, and I'd say here as well. At a time when opinion about ME in the UK is so polarised, we hope that scientists and funding bodies will focus on the enormous benefit and potential to be gained from collaborative work, which is again why it's a pleasure for me to be up here today. Only through large-scale biomedical research can we hope to find a cure for an illness whose impact on society is significant, with billions of pounds of lost income, futures decimated, and families under immense strain. It's been stated by eminent scientists around the world that the way forward for ME research will be an integrative, molecular, data and technology-driven approach using omics methods to enable subgrouping and with sufficient statistical power to really bring about change. This is the research that we are keen to support. Nearly there, last slide, isn't it? Last one. What makes an effective ME patient advisory group? Many researchers may already believe, as we obviously do, that patient input is critical to ME research. They may want to speak to patients, listen to patients, and involve them in giving careful thought to research questions, diagnostic criteria, and representative sampling, patient burden, and so on. There must be many other people affected by ME who would like to be on a PAG. But how can we make this a possibility in reality? We have a few suggestions. First of all, obviously include both people with ME, but also their carers. Enable the PAG to get to know and support one another, making use of several modes of communication, for example, phone, email, or an online platform. Know that ME patients are a valuable resource. We are a resource, so treat us as a resource. Obviously, some people will be ill, so give them plenty of time to plan the work they need to do for your project so they can pace themselves. And plan meetings and deadlines as much in advance as possible. And please, if you can, be sure to hear the voices of the most limited, the severely ill. Beyond the work of patient advisory groups, we appeal to researchers to take advantage of all opportunities for dialogue and discussion. One positive example from last year's CMRC meeting is an encounter, I think he's here actually, is an encounter one of our members had with a student. He said that speaking to her had encouraged him to pursue his dream of doing ME-related research. He's now undertaking a PhD in the field. He is there. And finally, so I'll be wrapping up now. On the discouraging days, whether you're a researcher whose grant didn't make it, or a teenager watching her friends through the one-way mirror of ME, that's a quote from the daughter of one of our members, please don't give up hope. We all hope to crack this conundrum of ME together. And thank you very much for listening.